When did you stop believing? That's the question we're asking today. When did you stop believing? This is the live recording of the Expedition to Soul podcast. And if you're listening to this later on the podcast, welcome in. Welcome to everybody. Belief is a strong word, it's a powerful feeling word. And when we think about believing in ourselves, believing in loved ones, believing in the things that we can't see, but we just innately know to exist or trust to exist in some way. And I think that we all believe in something. I don't, whether it's another person or something higher than yourself, right? We all have some belief in whatever it is. But somewhere along the way, we lose belief in ourselves and we lose belief in magic, in the hope that comes with magic and fairies and stories of things that we can't see. And one of those things is Santa Claus. That's right. Today, we're going to talk about believing in yourself, but I have a special guest in the wings, and I'm wearing my Santa shirt today. It says, "First things first, I'm the realist," and I love it. I also gifted Anna, her husband. I gifted him a mug with Santa on it that says, "I don't believe in you either," um, because he said something about not believing in Santa one day. uh, and a few years back, I think it was like 2 years ago, Anna and I, it might have been last year, a year ago, 2 years ago, Anna and I were doing a podcast episode that I believe was supposed to be about the Wild Hunt, the story of Odin. Somehow, this podcast episode, or it was a similar type of podcast episode anyway, turned into this story about Santa Claus and magic portals, and it went down a whole spiral of shenanigans. So we're going to talk about, when did you lose belief in yourself today? But first, to kick us off, I have Anna waiting in the wings, and we're going to talk a little bit about believing in Santa Claus. Now, Anna can only stay with us for a few minutes today. If you've been listening to the podcast, we actually all together, I don't know how many episodes we've done, quite a few. And Anna was in so many of them with me. But due to scheduling conflicts, we've not been able to record together in a while. And so I'm going to bring Anna on. She is home today with her 2-year-old. So we're going to just, I don't know how long we'll have Anna for, but we're going to talk to Anna a little bit. We're going to talk about this idea of belief. We're going to talk a little bit about Santa, because little do most of you know, I actually really love the holiday season, like Christmas season. I'm pretty obsessed with it. And we're going to talk about this, and then we're going to talk about believing in yourself. So let me bring Anna in here. Hello, sister.
Oh,
So great.
I look much darker than I thought I was going to look.
It's fine. It's fine. If you don't know Anna, if you're tuning in here and you're not in any of our programs, because you usually get to know Anna when you're in our programs, she is the co-founder of the Sisters Enchanted and my real life little sister.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. That's what the word is on the streets. Anna,
Sarah.
I want to ask you, do you remember? Well, so I kind of prepped Anna and I asked her about, when did, like, I didn't ask her. I said, when you stopped believing in Santa. And then Anna was like, what do you mean stopped believing in Santa? So I had to say, okay, let me rephrase this question. What was the moment when you realized that it was some other adult putting the gifts under the tree? I guess would be the right question I want to ask.
I actually don't think I have a really specific answer for that, because I don't think that like I ever like in my life acknowledged that fact. Like I don't think that I ever had a moment where I was like, you know, um, and you also don't know. We should have had a spoiler alert. Like, good thing my 2-year-old doesn't understand anything I'm talking about. But
I know.
but never. I don't think that it ever like quite. I never acknowledged it. So I think to actually put like a time of my life, a year of my life on it is impossible, because I refused to acknowledge that and just always leaned into like the magic and the idea that like this archetype, this Odin Claus, as we say here in Sisters Enchanted like land, Santa Claus, that archetype energy, just like a lot of archetype energies, is like one that lives through you. And you are an embodiment of that spirit, of that entity, and therefore exists everywhere.
I like it. Well, I will ruin the fun a little bit by telling you that I realized, and I totally should have done like a spoiler. If you have your children around, put your headphones in. And I got to tell you, sometimes my 8-year-old listens to the podcast because it shows up on Spotify next to JoJo Siwa, and she thinks that I'm famous like JoJo Siwa as a result. And I'm like, no, no, I'm not quite like JoJo Siwa. But I'm glad you hold me in that
Yep.
regard, my child.
Jacob's 11, and he was under the impression that like we were like internet famous billionaires. Like he actually said that the other day. He was like, "What? We can do all these activities. Mom's like internet famous and has so much money." I was like, "Whoa there, Nelly."
Yeah. Like teach these children about the business expenses. Santa
Like,
doesn't
"Oh,
cover
wow."
those. That's funny. No, so I remember when we must have been in, I don't know, like 3rd or 4th grade, because our mom was married to our first stepdad. So we lived there, and I had gone with him Christmas shopping, and he bought this like set of stuff that was a gift for you for Christmas. But then on Christmas Day, it was like wrapped as a present from Santa. And I was like, I
So
happened
I
to be
ruined
there
it
when you
for you.
purchased this. So I then and like obviously then I was like, this is all a hoax. But I never, even after that though, like I didn't tell you about it. And Anna and I, for years, we would put our heads down at our bedroom door. And we lived in this house at the time that wasn't, it was a 1-bedroom house, and it wasn't built for like all seasons. And so we lived in this room that didn't have heat in it, and it had this plastic like accordion door. And it didn't really close all the way. So we'd kind of try to like hook it on the door frame. And of course, the grown-ups would close it. And Anna and I would just lay there, like trying to look under this plastic door for Santa, even after I long realized that our parents were the ones putting the gifts under the tree.
I have yet to see a door like that ever since. Maybe that is a real Santa portal door, an accordion plastic door.
Yeah.
I
Remember that?
I do remember. Oh my god! And actually, I think about that door quite often because I was like, "What kind of door was that? Like,
It wasn't. I
what
know.
even was that?" But I think often of the time though, because we used to spend some holidays in Ohio with our grandparents as well,
Mhm.
and our grandfather is like the king of Santa magic, especially in like his heyday of the Christmas season. And Sarah and I used to get dental mirrors when we were at their house and like stick them under the real doors so that we could try to see things. My grandfather would come by at night and like push them under the doors.
Yeah.
Remember
Yeah.
that?
And he once he had a video camera back when they were big and had to sit on your shoulder. And he like quote air quotes chased Santa like down the hall up the chimney, and completely had us convinced that that he would freeze the video or pause it and say, look, there's a shoe. And we were totally convinced that that was his shoe, even though there's clearly no shoe there. But
We were like, we see it. This year we see it. And there were like some
yeah,
years that we're like, wait, where was it again? Like I must have blinked and he had us. Oh my goodness, did he have us?
we were totally convinced.
Convinced.
But the reason I bring this up is this idea of like, when did you stop believing, right? And I bring up this story because for some people, not for everybody, this moment of realizing that things aren't what you thought they were, whether that's in your your belief life, like those who believe in Santa, or it's maybe a moment where you had faith in something greater than yourself, and then something else happened, and you were like, "No, I don't believe in that anymore. You know, I can't because this thing happened." Or it's belief in yourself because you expected something to go a certain way and it didn't. Like maybe you thought, you know, life would be a certain way, or a job would be a certain way, or marriage would be a certain way, or parenting, or like that your aging parents and the way they would show up in your life would look a certain way, and then it doesn't. And I think what can happen is that you stop believing in possibility. You stop believing in the fact that things can be better, or that you have some choice in outcomes that feel like you have no choice in the matter. So I think that this again, this idea of belief, while we are bringing the Santa spin into it because, you know, 'tis the season for Santa. And I thought that since Anna and I had this podcast episode that was surprisingly popular about Santa portals, we'd bring some Santa into the mix today and talk about, you know, when we stop believing there. But I think you can apply that to any part of your life, and really, where does something happen that you just kind of stop believing in possibility, believing that it can be for you, believing that you have the ability or the gumption or the strength or the knowledge, or, you know, believing in your spouse because something happens, you know, like a error in judgment occurs on their end, and now you stop believing in them, or you stop believing in your children, or, you know, we just stop believing. And I think that this idea and thinking like like this is so silly, but when you learned that Santa wasn't Santa in that way, so of course Anna and I are we're believers in all sorts of things, but you know, I think you can apply that to your actual life and say like, what was that aha, that knowing moment for me, and where is that happening to me in my real life as an adult?
I feel like excuse me, you've given me just so much to ponder on because like as I previously stated, I am a believer of like all sorts of magical things. Like my oldest son, his favorite animal is always like a dragon, and the teacher's always like, we're trying to get him to like get out of, you know, saying that dragons are his favorite and like trying to get him to find like a real animal. And I'm always like, who says dragons aren't real? And so obviously teachers don't like to talk to me much. Uh, but I've always been like that. But you pose a really interesting question, but because I am always like, well, who says? Like, who says? And, but I do have lots of obstacles in life where like believing in like myself is really hard. I'm like I can get behind the magic in like all sorts of things, but often like flounder in getting behind the magic in my person.
And that's one of the questions that I ask of people. One of our mastermind inner circle members, she told me on Sunday that I am like the come to Jesus moment in her life. Um, because I people will say things, and I know that we've had this interaction where people say something about themselves like it's truth, you know, like that's what and then I'll say, but they'll say like, well, because of this, and I'm like, who told you that? Who is the person that said that about you? You're the person saying that about you, you know? Um, and so, yeah, believing in yourself, believing in other people. And I think thinking of this idea of, do you believe in fairies? Do you believe in Santa? Do you believe in dragons? But that's not actually much different than believing in things you can't see in your life, you know, believing that you can have confidence, believing you can use to learn like, or you can learn to use technology, or, you know, like learn to use a spreadsheet for a job even though you've never done it before. Oh, Anna's like, that was not directed at you, Anna, but I see Anna's like, I believe that I cannot learn to use a spreadsheet.
I believe that spreadsheets are not born from magic, but born from some sort of tech hell that nobody needs to be a part of.
It's Anna's version of, if you watch that show Lucifer and like if people end up in their hell loop, Anna's involves a
Oh my gosh,
spreadsheet.
it would. And numbers.
Anna having to do a spreadsheet every day in her hell loop.
Like set it up from start to finish. Oh my goodness.
I don't know what would be in my hell loop. I can't. Probably people going really slow next to me,
Or
like,
confinement.
yeah, confinement, just having to sit in one space with people doing things at sloth speed. That would be my hell loop. Get me out of
With
here.
no windows.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's the thing we want to leave you with, sort of, I guess, is just, belief. Like what, and again, it's not just we talk about believing in things we can't see, like the fairies and the mermaids and Santa and all of these things. But there's things about your own life that you can't see yet. And if you don't believe in them, right, you lose the magic of possibility. There is magic in the possibility that you can have whatever it is that you want for yourself. Knowing it's possible, that is magic. There's still sparkle and delight there. But the minute you decide that you aren't going to believe that that's possible, that's the minute you lose that magic.
So good.
So good. So good. I will, I guess, before we go, I'll tell one more little Christmas thing. Um, in my household, we watch the Tim Allen Santa Claus movies every year. I've watched them since they came out. We watch them like several times a year. My kids watch them. Well, this year, if y'all don't know, anybody who, wears shirts that say first things first, I'm the realist with Santa on them. If you are one of those people too, on Disney Plus, there is the Santa Clauses series, which came out this year. And we've been watching it. It's delightful. Anyway, we talk about all different kinds of stories in our house. And one of them is about La Bufana, the Italian Christmas witch. And I can't really find like lots of stories about her. So I kind of elaborate on them myself and like make them up. But the idea is that she rides her broom through the sky in January on the eve of Epiphany, and she leaves something for kids. And in the series, the Santa Clauses this year, guess who's in the show? La freaking Bufana is in there. And when she came on, and the character was like La Bufana, and my kids both looked at me, and I looked at them. We were like, the Christmas witch has made it onto television.
That's so exciting.
We were like, oh, this is the best Christmas ever.
That's so exciting. You're gonna have to like carve out a whole like winter season activity slash a holiday calendar, like your December 5th, your all of the things, your La Bufana night. You're gonna have like a whole calendar of activities
I
to
know.
incorporate all the magic that your family is
I know last night
invested
my
in.
yeah, so we homeschool, but my kids are part of like a online homeschool, I guess like group program thing, so that it's that there are just other adults and things, because I am a working mom here. And so the teacher, I guess, who does like the videos and things that my kids watch, or my oldest watches anyway, they've got two different people. She was talking about Saint Nick, and she wrote a delightful little poem for each kid for us to write out on paper and give them a little chocolate in their shoe last night. So Saint Nick came to our house last night, which was also a new addition. And yeah, I definitely felt like, number one, if that teacher lady is going to mention this, she should come to my house and do Saint Nick. But also, it was another delightful little thing, because we do love the magic and the surprise. And my daughter, she knows this great story about Saint Nick, where he like gives part of his cloak to people who need it to stay warm. So they have, I love the story because it helps reinforce giving this time of year and not just asking for stuff.
See, now I'm waiting for my oldest to hang out with yours so that they can tell him about this, so that I can then get ready to field the questions of how come I didn't put my shoes out, and then I'll have to navigate that magic,
I know.
that magic sprinkling of magic holiday dust in my life.
Well,
Make up
I
for
told my
it.
kids, because they asked about whether or not Saint Nick has ever come, like for Kevin, my husband, and I, and we said no. And then, and they said, well, why hasn't Saint Nick come here before? And I said, well, things don't happen unless you believe in them happening, for one. And for two, we've never left shoes outside we had them leave the shoes outside their bedroom door. So it was like an act, like a thing they had to do rather than just like, our shoes are always here. So we said, well, we don't leave our shoes outside of our bedroom door. It's not something that we do. So if that's the thing you have to do to make it happen, we've never done that. And they just accepted that as truth. But I definitely is like one of these days I'm gonna have a lot of explaining to
You-
do between Saint
unless
Nick,
unless
Santa,
they're like
Easter
you
Bunny,
and
Santa.
me,
Yeah.
which is like my fingers crossed happens for me because like I said, my oldest is 11 and I believe he's a believer to his core, and I'm just hoping he follows in my footsteps where he just is a believer at his core, and we never have to talk about it because I'll just be like, I don't know, man, I believe in magic. So
That is
there.
true. We never talked about it
We never talked about it.
ever, ever. And then even as we grew older, in our high school years, we were definitely economically disadvantaged, I'll say. And I started working when I was 16, but as soon as I had money then though, like I don't know, it was Christmas just still happened because then like I bought things and put them under the tree or like
Yeah.
it was never like a discussion, I
No,
guess, ever in our
it
house.
was never
Anyway,
a discussion. It was
yeah,
just we always believed in the magic of the season, of the time, and and I think, and then I'll stop because this is what happens if me and Sarah podcast. It just
I
doesn't
know.
end. But
It
I
doesn't.
think that too is like one of like the big reminders of this time of year, and it reminds me of we just had in our mastermind a chat about worthiness for the year and like what we were worthy of. And this time of year always kind of gets me because there's always so much pressure to like be involved in so many things. And then I think because you're involved in so many things, you lose the underlying magic that was supposed to be shared between like you and those that you decide to spend the holiday with. And that embodying this like magical archetype is also a practice like in your own boundaries and worthiness and like what you want that magic to look like and how you want to present it to the people around you, especially if you have children or you spend the holidays with young people. Just how do you embody that magic and like keep the magic going without getting stuck in all of the holiday shenanigans and like lack of
Yeah.
boundaries and things like that.
Very, very true. Speaking of which, if you haven't downloaded our Stay Magic digital magazine yet, get yourself that. It's free. And there's articles in here and strategies all about staying grounded during the busy holiday season. So you'll want to check that out. But to just tie us back in here, I saw a comment come by as we're recording this live, and it's past me now. But this, someone said, it's so true. I believe in fairies. Why don't I believe in myself? Or why can't I believe in myself? So this idea, think of this, this idea of belief and where did you lose belief or what do you believe in that you can't see? Or where did you stop believing and apply that to your life because it's not different. The things that you desire to have or the way you want something to change and shift into, uh, just because you can't see it doesn't mean that the magic of that thing existing in the future doesn't exist. And how can you know, hold the belief in that just like you would something else you can't see? There you go. Food for thought today. All right, y'all. If you're not registered for our live expedition to Seoul happening on Sunday, be sure to check that out. It is a basically like afternoon virtual sort of retreat event situation. We're doing our expedition to Seoul class live in a 4-hour time period. So it'll be 90 minutes with a break and then 90 minutes. So we will take a break in the middle, and maybe even 2 more like 10-minute breaks because I'm realizing right now that That's not adding up to 4 hours. That's 3.5 hours for a half-hour break, but it's gonna be 2 to 6 with a break in there or break times. And we are going to go through Expedition to Soul live together. We're gonna do it to round out the year. This is the perfect time, and that program, it's something we've done, I don't know how many times, like 12 to 15 times we've done Expedition to Soul, and that will certainly help you come back home to yourself again and see where you're not believing in yourself or where you want to. So if you're feeling very like, I don't know, life seems okay, I do the same things every day, but something feels a little not quite how I want it, I don't really feel like jazzed and amped and totally aligned with my life, Expedition to Soul is the thing. Uh, and it's happening this Sunday. So you'll want to get uh, registered
Get on
for that. Um, all right then. So anyway, that's it. Thank you, Anna. You got to hang out the whole time.
Yay!
Yay.
Thanks
All
for
right.
having me.
Thanks for coming. I appreciate you coming on a Tuesday when you don't normally hop on camera.
It's all right. We did it.
We did it. All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. And until next time, we hope that you have an enchanted rest of your day ahead. Bye.